Well, hey, welcome to the Light Reading Podcast. I'm Jeff Baumgartner, Senior Editor of Light Reading.
I'm Jeff Heynen, Vice President of Broadband Access and Home Networking with the Dell'Oro Group.
Jeff, it's good to see you. We're here at Fiber Connect in Nashville. Pretty big show, actually. I think it's like 5,000 people, new record is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously a lot of enthusiasm here, and lots of vendors and lots of attendees, definitely.
Yeah. Well, we're going to eventually drill down into like kind of what's going on in the MDU sector. But now that I think we're on day 2 here. So we've had a couple mornings of keynotes, at least a full day of meetings, and wanted to ask you a little bit about what your big takeaways are so far. You know, for me, there's still a lot of discussion about BEAD, but a lot of discussion is about all the uncertainty about it versus all of the optimism that maybe was here last year. I wasn't here, but I'm assuming it was a little more optimistic about what was coming. But anyway, that was one thing for me. But I mean, I'm sure I want to hear your thoughts on that. What else are your big takeaways?
Yeah, I think definitely the uncertainty around the BEAD program, from a policy and advocacy perspective, is hanging over the whole show. But I think at the same time, people are also, especially operators that were part of that process, they just want to know, like, whether are we going to move forward with that process, or should we go out and raise funds privately to do these fiber builds that we still need to do, regardless of those BEAD locations. So all in all, there's just general uncertainty. And that also has to do with the equipment that they purchase, what type of price increases they might be seeing from that because of the tariffs on certain components. So all of that lends, kind of offsets the enthusiasm about fiber deployments in general. Look, people are still excited because all operators still have committed to their homes passed goals with fiber. So there's nothing changing that and nothing stopping it. It might slow down a little bit, but at the same time, it's still a vastly growing market.
Yeah, I feel, in some aspects, they are moving forward in some areas, but there's kind of this hurry up and wait when it comes to BEAD. And you mentioned the tariffs, and that's like another area of uncertainty because the policies around tariffs evolve almost every day. It feels like, they'll announce one, they'll pull it back, they'll do something else, they'll say, well, we're going to put like a delay on that. And then, so if you're a operator or a supplier, it makes it a little more difficult to operate around that kind of uncertainty. Yeah. I don't know if you heard any comments around the tariff issues here and how they're trying to respond to it.
I think the response throughout the industry has been, we still have our strategy and we need to move forward with that strategy regardless of the whipsaw effect of tariffs being on one day and off the next day. And we have to have these trusted relationships with our suppliers to work with us and potentially absorb additional costs that they may have from different components. But at the same, they're all moving forward with their build plans, and that's not going to change because of these policy changes that happen on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I was kind of listening to the keynotes, and Gary, leader of Fiber Broadband Association, he's still pretty excited about that. I mean, that's his job, but
absolutely.
But I think, aside that, there's a little bit of, looking at what we hope the future is going to be, and kind of just getting through this phase. And kind of seeing that, I think, fiber is definitely going to be the way forward for a lot of these companies, one way or the other.
So. And I think from the advocacy side and the policy side, I think there's a frustration level with from the advocates on behalf of FBA or Fiber Broadband Association, and just saying, let's create certainty. I'm going to lobby for you to continue moving forward with fiber as a preferred technology for these deployments. Don't just say no because that was the preferred policy of the last administration. give me a reason why you don't want to do it, a logical reason. Maybe it's cost, maybe it's something else.
Right.
And so that's the frustration, I think, in general, because it's only been the only reason for putting BEAD under consideration again, and maybe making these operators reapply, which costs them a lot of money. They spend hundreds of
lot of effort.
dollars, yeah, to go through the application process and all the time, and potentially they're going to have to go through that again. For what reason? And I think that's the uncertainty, not necessarily by tariffs and all of that. That's the true uncertainty of the situation is, how much time and effort are these operators going to have to put in to reapply potentially? So
yeah, and you had mentioned, I actually heard an example here. I'll probably learn more about it in the weeks to come, but where there are areas that they would focus on with BEAD money, but they're still trying to figure out other ways to start building sooner.
yeah,
and trying to find other methods like finding partners and to help fund those builds. So I wonder if we're going to kind of see some pocket use cases or situations like that.
oh, I totally agree. I mean, I think AT&T is not part of the BEAD equation per se, but I mean they're showing that you can have different models of getting to your home's pass goals, right? Whether it's direct build, whether it's through a joint venture like Gigapower, or whether it's through buying a lumen and then
Creating another joint venture.
Exactly, creating a network co, right?
Yeah.
And the U.S. market is certainly more open to open access infrastructure now. You've got a number of providers that's their focus. So there are different opportunities and different business models to get the fiber build-outs done.
Okay. Well, the last thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was like kind of heading into this show, and ANGA, in Germany is going on at the same time. But we got kind of flooded with announcements from suppliers with new products or new integrated platforms that are focused on apartments, multiple dwelling units. And it just felt like interesting that they all kind of fell at the same time. I probably should follow the MDU arena a little bit more closely. I think a lot of the stuff I've done of late would be, Starry, because that's their market, and but obviously a fixed wireless approach. But why do you think there's so much attention being given to the MDUs right now? Whether that's the smaller MDUs or the larger type of apartment buildings.
Yeah, I think there are a couple reasons. The first is, there are a lot of MDUs out there, whether it is apartment buildings, condominiums, hospitality, hotels. I mean, we're here in the Gaylord. I don't know how many rooms are in this hotel, but
at least 20.
at least, yeah, at last count, yeah.
I'm looking at 20 in front of me over here. Yeah, right.
But so there's that aspect of it. So you have a largely untapped addressable market of homes, and if you put it in the context of BEAD, there's a good percentage of those that are underserved or unserved by the current speed definitions. The second reason for that is for the focus on MDUs is that the single family home market in terms of technologies has largely been solved. OLT, ONT, Wi-Fi in the home. You think you have that pretty well down. The MDU approach, right? You have competing operators, right? You have some coming from the telco side, right? As a fiber provider trying to unseat maybe a cable incumbent. Maybe there's coax throughout these buildings, but you don't have access to that, and so you have vendors like Nokia, Incoax, and others that they have solutions where you run fiber to the building basement, and then you use MoCA or G.hn to deliver gigabit speeds to each of those individual apartment buildings. On the other side, now you have Harmonic and Vecima and others who are coming at it from the cable approach and saying, look, keep your markets here. Don't disrupt the DOCSIS modems and the cable modems and set-top boxes that are already in these homes. We'll have the same approach of dropping fiber into the MDU. You tap into the coax, but you deliver DOCSIS services. So there's two approaches that are going after that MDU market, and I think it's going to be interesting to see, whether building owners flip from one operator or another. But for the vendors, it's about giving those, the operators and the ISPs and the building owners options to, go with a fiber ISP or stay with your cable operator.
Yeah. And it feels like, it's kind of, when you're talking about like the DOCSIS approach to the MDUs, it's still HFC, but now the C is for coax, and the coax is what's in the building. Yeah.
Right.
It's like that's the last mile off the node, like you would in a single family environment or network. Yeah.
And the other thing is, it's going to be for older buildings, it's going to be so difficult to rewire those with fiber that coax is really going to be your only option unless you decide to, maybe do wireless throughout, or, Wi-Fi 7 or something like that throughout the building. But then you have to deal with those issues. So I think just having options from a technology perspective is good for whatever ISP is trying to, get into and provide service to those buildings.
Yeah, and I can also see why servicing MDUs that are in need of an upgrade or an enhancement would be attractive to like a cable operator, right? Because I think they're still, let's say they've been shut out of a building, or they're also trying to figure out ways to expand their markets.
Absolutely, yeah.
Broadband.
The largest ones are not adding broadband subs at the moment. So trying to stop the bleeding here in the short term and maintain those subscribers with, service levels that they're providing to their single family home residential customers is pretty important to them right now.
And MDUs, just as like an observational example, going to the airport on Sunday, driving, going down 470, all along the road, that's like all they're building are these big giant MDU like apartment buildings, because it's becoming, I think it's pretty clear that especially younger people, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to buy a single family home, but they still need to have housing for these people. So I'm seeing all those pop up. And obviously they're going to go in with the best technology available, but maybe that'll be another opportunity too, versus just hitting kind of the brownfield market.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah, trying to buy a house as a young person is extremely challenging. So you start off in an apartment just like we all did, and the other thing is, a lot of those buildings aren't being built with fiber throughout, just for cost purposes. Even though the cost difference between fiber and coax at this point, running them through the buildings, isn't really significant, but still, the builders, they know coax, and they've put those in many buildings before, and that's the expectation. Unless the building owner specifies, we want this to be all fiber, they're still going to go with coax. So even in these newer buildings, the ISPs to those buildings are still going to run into the same issue that they do even with older buildings.
Okay. Well, it'll be a part of the market we'll be keeping an eye on. That definitely products are pouring in to support that part of the market. But I hope you enjoy the rest of the show, and it was great to catch up with you.
Great to catch up with you. Yeah, good to see you at a non-cable show.
Yeah, it's been a while. All right, thanks. All right, take care.
Thank you. Yeah.